Okay, so the next bit, so you should have 5 of these random shapes rotation molded. We are going to look at doing an assembly. So we're going to use the same method, but we're going to create a vase in 2 pieces that comes apart. So you'll have a bottom section and a top section, and we're going to learn how to draw using projected geometry that you'll see on the video. The idea being you can take them apart so you can get to clean inside and replace bits and pieces rather than it just getting dirty and getting thrown away. So on Inventor, once you've got it open, you need to click on Assembly, do File, Save As, and inside your rotation vase, I don't know, I'm going to call mine bulb vase because it's for putting a bulb inside. There we go. So we're going to create 2 separate pieces. So the first piece we're going to create the base. So I'm going to call it base section. Make sure it's saving into my rotation vases area. And then remember, when you see the little step thing, click, and it will come up with your section here. So start a new sketch. I'm going to draw on the side. And it doesn't really matter what shape you do the base section in. What does matter is the top bit, but I suggest that we go up by 50 millimeters high and then do the width. Remember, it has to be a maximum of 30 because it's going to rotate and become 60 around. So this section here is what we can draw inside. Remember, you've got to leave a flat bit at the bottom for it to stand on, and we also need a flat bit at the top so that we can have our top section slot into it. So what I'm going to suggest you do is to click in this top left corner here and then come down. You see the blue one changing at the top. I would come down by 5 millimeters and then make sure that that says 30. So we're going to leave this section as a flat section that comes down here so that we can then slot the top bit in and it'll make it nice and easy to join up. Okay, so we could do all sorts of different shapes. This one is a circle. It doesn't have to be turned into a circle. You could turn it into sort of like one of these squash shapes, something square. It's up to you. It's not very much space though. I think what I'm going to do is make mine into a more interesting shape. I'm going to do, so from this bottom part here out to about the middle, and then I'm going to go from there. And can you see if I hover underneath that dot there, it shows me a little dotted line. That will help if you want to make it symmetrical, so you can go across at the bottom, look, and it'll show you the dotted line so you know you've got them the same distance from the side. I'm going to do that and make mine a little bit interesting. Now, wherever you end up here, across the top, go with your line tool from there straight up. So it wants to be 5 millimeters, the same as the side. And can you see here it says degrees? We don't want it to be wonky. For it to work, it needs to be perfectly straight up. So you want to set that to 0 degrees. Okay, and that will give us a nice straight edge for the top section to slot down into. Okay, so let's start trimming the excess away. Not sure why it's doing that. Let's see if it behaves when we go on to do when we go to do the rotate. I don't know if it will or not. Yeah, it's working anyway. So we're going to revolve that profile, and the axis is going to be this centre bit. There we go. So this is my bottom section. So if you look at this again, so this is the equivalent of this round part here. And we need to shell the middle out. So 3mm, and we need to make sure that this is nice and easy to see through. So I'm going to set it to one of the clear colours. Okay. So that is my awesome see-through base section. Now we're going to make the bit on top for the bulb to sit in. Right, so I've skipped ahead a little bit here. So I pressed the return button and I've created my next part. So I've called it top section and I've clicked on here. And as you can see, I can still see this bottom part. So we can actually use that to create the top section and make it an exact fit. So you want to click on Start a 2D sketch, but we're actually going to click, rather than on this set of planes, on the actual product itself, on this section here. There we go. So this is us drawing. If I flip it, we're drawing on the top of the base section. And we can use this tool up here called Project Geometry to steal lines off this bottom bit to make it exact. So if you click on Project Geometry, you can see we can steal these lines here. And the one we want is the internal bit, the inside of that circle. So if I show you here, you can see that what we're going to do is make something that fits inside here. So click on the inside of that section, and then we need to create a slightly bigger area around the outside so that it doesn't fall in. So I'm going to create circle. Make sure you hover over this middle bit here so that it is exactly in line with that circle. So you want to wait for the little green dot to show up. Click, and then we're going to type 60mm because that's the biggest size we can get. Okay, now that is going to be our bottom section. So I'm going to click Finish Sketch. I'm going to extrude this, but I only want you to extrude it by 3mm. Now that, as you can see, fits exactly on top. Okay, what we do need though is to make a section that slots down onto the inside. So start a sketch, we're going to draw on top, and we're going to steal that line again. So Project Geometry, we want the inside of the circle, but this time you're going to do an offset line. Now offset exactly copies this, but you can set it to a different dimension. You can drag it like this, look, or you can just type a number in. So we want to type 3mm and press OK. Now this, once we extrude it, we're going to shoot downwards into the bottom, and that will make our slot. So if I go sideways here, if you are on extrude and you select that middle section, we don't want it to go up. Can you see the direction the arrow is? That's not what we want. We want it to go down. So these type direction areas here, change the direction. If you look, we can flip it so that it adds material downwards instead. Okay, we don't want it to be 3. Remember that straight bit that we made earlier was 5, and that will join up nicely. So if I zoom out, that is this section started and the bottom section done. Now we're going to draw on top of this to make the top bit. So we've got the bottom section done, and we've got a flat bit here for our bulb to sit on. So we're just going to make it go upwards a little bit so that it's got like a little something to sit inside. So start another sketch on top of the circle. I'm going to project the geometry of the outside edge and then offset it. Remember, the thickness of the material has to be 3 millimeters. We extrude that, and we want to change the height of this so that it goes up. Now remember, the maximum size we can have height-wise on the 3D printer is 150 millimeters, and we've got 5 sticking down into this already. So the height of this is already 5. The maximum height you can do on here is 150, take away 5, so you've got 145. I'm not going to make mine that big. I don't think it needs to be that tall. I'm just going to make mine 5 centimeters tall. Oh, it looks a bit like a lamp. There we go. That's my top section and my bottom section done that will slot into each other so I can have a little bulb. Let's change the colour on that one so you can see it a bit better. There we go. So top section's yellow, bottom section's blue. And those will be our 2 parts that slot together to make the bulb. Click return, and then it will allow you to save your work. Remember, yes to all and OK. And that will have saved into your area. So put a screenshot of this once you've rendered the top and the bottom section into your OneNote area where it says assembly, and then fill in the bottom sections for me.